So in this problem, the first thing I need to do, if I've got a price of $15 and I have a tax of 8%, I have to find the tax first. And usually you'll just do it in the order that it's listed. So I have $15, the tax is 8%. Let's start then. Step 1, there will be 4 steps to this process. Step 1, we will find 8% of $15. The tax is 8%, so let's find that. Let's find what 8% of $15 is. To do this, you will need to move the decimal 2 places. And please do not forget, since 8 is a single-digit number and I moved it 2 places, I need to put a 0 in front of it. So this has become 0.08. So I do $15 times 0.08. 5 times 8 is going to give me 40. 8 times 1 is 8. With the 4 that I carried becomes 12. Now I worry about the decimal. There were 2 numbers behind the decimal point in my original problem. So I'll bring it in 2 places and make it $1.20. So we have now found the tax. $1.20 on top of the 15 I already did, which takes us to step 2. And this is the part that we should all already know. If I just found tax, am I going to add that to the 15 or am I going to subtract it from the 15 if it's tax? Right, I'm going to add it. So step 2 is to add the tax to 15. So I'm going to take my $15 and I'm putting the zeros to represent it as money, $15, and I will add the $1.20. Remember, when you're adding, you have to line up the decimals. So I add them up. 0 and 0 is 0. 0 and 2 is 2. Bring down my decimal. 5 and 1 makes 6. Bring down the 1. And we have our new amount. After I add the tax, I have now got $16.20. This is where the problem starts getting different. I'm going to move this up for just a second here. Step 3 is where things begin to change. It's still the same general idea as what we did yesterday, but when I find 15%, so now I'm going to do the tip. I don't want 15% of the original $15. I need 15% of the new total that I just made in step 2. So I want 15% of $16.20. And this is where things get a little bit more complicated, because now my numbers aren't quite as rounded off. I'm getting some real world numbers now. So I'll take my $16.20 and I will multiply by 15%. So move it 1, 2 to make 0.15. 5 times 0 is 0. 5 times 2 is 10. 30 and 1 more is 31. 5 and 3 more makes 8. I've used the 5, so I'll put a 0. 1 times 0, 1 times 2, 1 times 6, and 1 times 1. So if we add these up, we now have a 0, a 0, a 3, a 14, and then a 2. Again, we need to stop and look at where the decimal goes. This multiplication problem that we just did had 1, 2, 3, 4 numbers after the decimal points. So I bring it in 1, 2, 3, 4 places. I have $2.43 that I would leave for a tip. If this were the real world, you'd probably just round that up to $3, or if you're cheap, you'd round it down to $2. But since we're being accurate here, $2.43. That takes us to the final step. We are just about done here. This is a tip. When you leave a tip, does that add to your total, or do you subtract it? We are going to have to add it. Very good. So, very last step, we have to add the tip. But we add it to the $16.20. I'm not adding it to the original 15. You do tip on top of what you did for the total after tax. So I'm going to take my $16.20 and I will add the tip we just did, $2.43. So 0 and 3, 2 and 4, 6 and 2, bring down the 1. Our final cost here was $18.63. That means if you tried to go to a restaurant and you tried to get something for $15 on the menu, or added up to $15 on the menu, it wouldn't actually cost you $15. It would actually cost you $18.63.